Hi everyone, Comic Reviewer here. This time reviewing on the first season of The Transformers. Now, The Transformers was the series that started it all, or as it was known as, Generation 1, due to the sort of rebranding of the franchise known as Generation 2 in 1992. Now, given the fact that The Transformers also had a Marvel comic book tie-in, we even had a TV series that was done by Marvel Productions and Sunbro Productions. And of course, from September 17th, 1984, and to November 11th, 1987, we had 4 seasons of Transformers. And the premise of the film is meant to take place on the planet Cybertron, where due to the constant war, we see how the peaceful Autobots, led by the leader Optimus Prime, and the maniacal called Decepticons, led by Megatron, who is meant to be a dangerous maniacal leader, both decide that they need supplies and select a number from each side. So of course, we kind of see how something that happens well in space, and we see how their ship ends up crashing on Earth, and after many years, in 1984, due to a volcano eruption, awakens the Transformers once again, leading to their conflict to happen on Earth, as well as the humans being caught in the crossfire. So, of course, in the series, we see how 2 other humans, known as Sparkplug and Spike, end up helping the Autobots in the first season in their mission to stop Megatron and the Decepticons. Now, I would say the 2 human characters have a certain trait. Sparkplug is the guy who's just kind of roped into the action and doesn't really have much for season 1. Spike, on the other hand, is meant to be roped into some actions with the Autobots, and even in the 3-parter, More Than Meets the Eye, he actually writes in his diary sharing his thoughts about his experience, which I think is a nice touch. And I think for the most part, I would say, is that when you've got Optimus's team, it mainly consists of Jazz, who's basically the sort of drill sergeant. You've basically got Cliff Chomper, who's a bit of the tough guy. You've got Ironhide, the guy who takes crap from no one. And you've even got Huffer, who's a bit more of a complainer. With the Decepticons, led by Megatron, you've got Starscream, whose goal is to try and take over leadership of the Decepticons. You've got Soundwave, who's got multiple cassette tapes. You even have Skywarp and Thundercracker, who look similar to Starscream, but with different colour schemes. So we kind of see how Megatron's goal is to grab resources from Earth, as well as bring it back to Cybertron. We also kind of see how Megatron will go to any length to get power, which either kind of backfires on him, or in the process has him kind of be defeated by his own arrogance. I would also say that some characters I feel do feel a bit rushed in. I would say when you kind of got Spike's friendship, I kind of felt they shouldn't really have rushed him in too quickly and could have saved him for season 2. And I kind of feel like when you kind of got other characters thrown into the first season, like the Dinobots kind of being more like the sort of extra muscle, makes sense. And I think at the same time, I would say, when you've got the Constructicons, it was mentioned by Megatron that they were created in their new fortress, even though season 2 kind of made it clear the Constructicons were from Cybertron, and even in season 3, it seemed like they did create Megatron for some reason. I would also say the show does have a little bit of errors, like Starscream mentioning how him and another Transformer, Skyfire, travelled to Earth, despite the fact that Starscream and the others were pretty much new to the planet. So it never really made much sense. And it's even kind of shown in Starscream's flashback that Starscream transformed to his jet form, even though back in the first episode you kind of had them in their Cybertronian forms, which kind of made sense. And I would say that, yeah, Season 1 does kind of imply that other Autobots and Decepticons were on Cybertron, so which kind of explains when Season 2 came, how characters like Blaster, Perceptor, also Beachcomber and that, as well as Inferno, seem to show up out of nowhere, so implying Optimus recruited them to come back to help them out. The same with Megatron's forces. And yeah, the first season sort of shows that the Dinobots were created by hand, despite the fact in Season 2, when you had the Stunticons as well as the Aerial Bots being created by Vector Sigma. Which I get it, the writers didn't really thought of it at the time. And I would also say with the first season, I would say, is that the few episodes do have an ongoing arc. Like Mauler Meets the Eye shows the introductions to the Autobots and Decepticons war happening on Earth. We have the Season 4 episode, Transport to Oblivion. We see how the Decepticons recover from their battle after their ship crash lands and decides the new space bridge. We also kind of see roll for it how Megatron is assumed dead, and we see how Starscream takes over leadership for a time. And when you kind of got Divide and Conquer, it's kind of like the final part of the arc, where we kind of see how humans are creating things from a weapon factory, and that was the bit of the arc. I think for the most part, I would say the first season of Transformers isn't perfect, as there are a few errors. There's a few things that should have been done a bit better, and things that seem to be thrown at the last moment, like how Optimus and Megatron seem to have a mace and a kind of axe-like weapon, and I don't think we would ever see those weapons again. And I know Beast Wars even covered what happened to the Nemesis, as well as covering what happened before the events of the TV show. So in my opinion, G1 is not perfect for the first season, but it knows what it wants to be. So I think it deserves a thumbs up. It's still good and still alright. It's still got the Saturday humour, cartoon humour, and feel to the show. So, Comic Reviewer here, signing out.